This is an emergency public broadcast regarding a widespread sensory anomaly. If you are outdoors after dusk or near a window, we advise you to cease all non-essential movement and maintain absolute silence. The phenomenon you may know as the hum, that persistent, low-frequency background noise, often dismissed as tinnitus or industrial activity, has been misidentified. Our research indicates this is not a byproduct of our infrastructure. It is a predatory entity that has learned to use our infrastructure. We are designating this threat Acoustic Resonance Predator, or ARP. The entity is non-biological, existing as a complex sentient frequency that infests and propagates through interconnected electrical grids. The gentle, almost imperceptible hum of a streetlight is not an electrical flaw. It is the sound of the predator breathing. It is the sound of it waiting. The first and most critical thing you must understand is that this entity is blind. It perceives the world only through vibration and sound. Your silence is not just a defense. It is a form of invisibility. The primary hunting mechanism of the ARP is a process we are calling forced auditory pareidolia. Pareidolia is the psychological tendency to find meaningful patterns in random noise. Seeing faces in clouds, for example. The ARP weaponizes this. The specific frequency of its hum, between 50 and 60 hertz, directly stimulates the auditory cortex in the human brain, inducing a state of heightened anxiety and forcing you to hear things that are not there. You will begin to hear faint whispers in the hum, your name being called, a baby crying, a woman screaming. These are not real sounds. They are auditory hallucinations, engineered by the entity for a single purpose: to make you react, to make you gasp or call out, or make any sound that will betray your position. It is a form of psychological bait. The predator cannot find you if you are silent. So it creates a sound inside your own head, so terrifying that you are compelled to break that silence yourself. It turns your own brain into its spotter. If the psychological bait fails, the ARP will escalate to infrasonic pressure. The frequency of the hum will drop into the infrasound range, below 20 hertz. You will no longer hear it in the traditional sense, but you will feel it. It will manifest as a deep, vibrating pressure in your chest, a feeling of inexplicable dread, and a sudden, overwhelming sense of being watched by something malevolent. This is not just a feeling. It is a physical assault. The infrasonic vibrations cause the fluid in your inner ear to resonate, leading to dizziness and nausea. More dangerously, they match the resonant frequency of the human eyeball, causing it to vibrate slightly. This leads to visual distortions, shadowy figures in your peripheral vision, a sense of movement in the darkness. The entity is now attacking your other senses, trying to frighten you into a physical reaction, a stumble, a fall, a cry of fear. Any sound you make is a flare in the darkness, a signal that tells the predator exactly where its prey is hiding. Once your position is identified, the ARP initiates its attack, a phenomenon we call acoustic focusing. Multiple streetlights in the local grid will synchronize their hum, focusing their acoustic energy onto your precise location. The ambient hum will cease, replaced by a dead, unnatural silence, followed by a single, pure, and rapidly intensifying tone. This tone is designed to match the resonant frequency of organic matter. The focused sound waves act as a form of sonic weapon, causing a violent, sympathetic vibration at the cellular level. The first effect is paralysis. Your muscles will lock up, and you will be unable to move or scream. The second effect is a rapid increase in internal temperature as your cells vibrate against each other. It is, in essence, a microwave oven that uses sound instead of radiation. It is a horrifyingly efficient and sterile method of neutralizing. What does the entity gain from this? It does not consume its victims in a biological sense. We believe it feeds on the energy released during the final moments of the acoustic focusing. Not the heat or the sound, but a form of bioenergetic potential we do not yet understand. It is the energy of a life being extinguished. This potential energy is what the ARP uses to sustain itself and, more terrifyingly, to propagate. After a successful hunt, the entity will go dormant, and the hum will spread to an adjacent electrical grid that was previously silent. It is expanding its territory. It is colonizing our world, one streetlight at a time, using our own life force as the fuel for its expansion. Every victim does not just feed the predator, they help it build a new nest. We are not just its prey, we are its pioneers. The origin of the ARP is unknown. It exhibits no signs of biological life, no DNA, no cellular structure. The leading hypothesis is that it is an informational organism from a dimension where life did not evolve from carbon, but from complex wave interactions. It may have breached our reality through an accident, a high-energy physics experiment, a powerful solar flare, or the very creation of our global electrical grid, which may have acted as an unintentional antenna, broadcasting a signal into the multiverse that invited this entity in. It found a world perfectly suited to its needs, a planet covered in a vast, interconnected nervous system of wires with a dominant species that communicates primarily through sound. To the ARP, our world is not a home, it is a hunting ground, perfectly designed for its unique predatory methods. We built the ideal environment for our own extinction. We have observed that the ARP exhibits signs of intelligence and learning. In areas where the population has learned to remain silent, the entity has been observed changing its tactics. It will manipulate the streetlight itself, causing it to flicker erratically or to shut off entirely, plunging an area into darkness. This is designed to create panic, to make people move, to make them use flashlights and call out to each other. It is a sign of adaptive hunting. More disturbingly, It has learned to mimic sounds. It can replicate the sound of a police siren, a car horn, or a ringing phone. Sounds that demand a human response. It is learning our triggers. It is studying our psychology. The predator is not just a mindless force. It is an intelligent hunter, and it is actively learning how to counter our defenses. Our ability to adapt is being matched by its own. The most dangerous aspect of the ARP is its effect on technology. Because it is a sound-based entity, it can interact with any device that has a microphone. Do not attempt to record the hum. The act of recording creates a direct, sympathetic link between the entity and your device. The device's microphone will become a new ear for the predator, a mobile listening post it can use to hunt. Your phone will become a beacon. We have received reports of phones ringing with no incoming call, of smart speakers activating and whispering in the middle of the night. The entity is hijacking our communication network, turning our own technology against us. It is a digital ghost, and it can follow you into your home, into your safest spaces. The only way to be safe is to power down, to disconnect entirely, to embrace the silence, not just of the voice, but of the circuit. There is a social component to this horror. How do you warn others without making a sound? How do you organize a defense in a world where communication is a death sentence? The RP is fracturing society. It isolates individuals, making them paranoid and distrustful of any noise, even from a potential ally. A person crying for help becomes indistinguishable from the entity's psychological bait. A rescue vehicle's siren becomes a potential trap. The entity is forcing humanity into a state of absolute, terrified individualism. It is dissolving the bonds of community by making the very act of cooperation a fatal risk. We cannot fight it together, because together requires sound. We can only survive it alone, in the dark, in the silence. It is the perfect predator for a social species. Can it be fought? Traditional weapons are useless against a being of pure frequency. However, there is a theoretical defense, acoustic cancellation. If we could generate the exact same frequency as the hum, but in perfect antiphase, the two waves would cancel each other out, creating a zone of true, absolute silence, a safe zone. But this is nearly impossible in practice. The ARP is constantly shifting its frequency by minute amounts. To create a stable, safe zone, we would need a network of sensors and emitters that could analyze and counter the hum in real time, a technological feat far beyond our current capabilities. Furthermore, the very act of broadcasting the cancellation frequency could be interpreted by the entity as a challenge, a signal from a rival, potentially provoking an attack of unimaginable scale. The cure could be infinitely more dangerous than the disease. This broadcast is a final warning. The hum is not your friend. The whispers are not real. The silence is your only sanctuary. When dusk falls and the streetlights begin to glow, that is your signal. Find shelter. Insulate yourself from the sound. Do not speak. Do not whisper. Do not even breathe too loudly. Become an island of silence in a world that is buzzing with a predatory hunger. The entity does not know you exist until you tell it so. It is a test of discipline, a battle of wills between your primal need to react and the cold, logical necessity of absolute stillness. This broadcast will now end. We cannot risk its transmission being traced. We leave you with this final, critical piece of advice. If you are outside and the streetlights begin to hum, do not make a sound. Your life depends on it. Be invisible. Be silent.